He took shelter in my house during the storm. It was supposed to be just another rainy night, the kind that makes you cancel plans, curl up on the couch, and wait for the sky to calm down. I didn't expect anyone to knock on my door, especially not him. He stood there, soaked and shivering, hair plastered to his forehead, looking at me like I was the only safe place left in the world. We hadn't spoken in weeks. Not after what almost happened that night at the lake. Not after the way he'd looked at me and then looked away like it had all been a mistake. But now, there he was. No excuses, no words, just him, asking silently to come in. I didn't know what would happen once I let him inside. I just knew I wasn't ready for what I was about to feel again. Before we start this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on notifications. That's how we keep bringing you real, emotional stories that stay long after the rain stops. This is the night everything changed. The rain had been falling all afternoon, but it wasn't until after midnight that the storm really broke. Thunder cracked so loud it rattled the glass, and lightning flashed like a strobe across my living room wall. I was halfway through a movie I wasn't paying attention to, curled under a blanket, listening to the wind tear through the trees outside. The power flickered once, then again. I never expected someone to knock. At first I thought I imagined it. Just the wind, or maybe the rain hitting weird. But then it came again. 3 short, uncertain knocks. I stood, heart already racing, and went to the front door. I didn't even check the peephole. I just opened it. And there he was, Eli, soaked to the bone, hoodie clinging to his arms, curls dripping over his eyes. He looked like he'd run through the storm barefoot. His lips were slightly parted, breath uneven. But what hit me the hardest was his face, like he was scared, or maybe just lost. "Hey," he said softly. I hadn't seen him in almost a month. Not since the night by the lake when things got too close, when we sat in his car in silence for too long, when he looked at me like he was about to say something he couldn't unsay, and then didn't. "What are you doing here?" I asked, trying not to sound too much of anything. He glanced over his shoulder at the sheets of rain. "Car broke down. I didn't know where else to go." I stepped aside without a word. He walked in, dripping across the tile floor, and I shut the door behind him. "You're freezing," I said, already heading to the hallway. "I'll get you a towel." He nodded, arms crossed over his chest, as if holding himself together. When I came back, he was standing in the same spot, still not speaking. I handed him the towel and motioned toward the bathroom. "Thanks," he said quietly, disappearing behind the door. I sat back on the couch, my body stiff, nerves alert. This was Eli. Eli, in my house again. After weeks of nothing. After he pulled away, went quiet, stopped texting without explanation. And now, he shows up in the middle of a storm like we didn't have unfinished words stretched between us like power lines. When he returned, he was wearing one of my old shirts and a pair of joggers I hadn't worn in years. His hair was damp, eyes softer now. He hesitated by the edge of the couch, then sat down next to me, leaving just a little more space than usual. We didn't speak for a while, just the hum of the storm outside, the occasional flicker of lightning, and the weight of everything unsaid between us. "I thought about texting you," he said finally. I stared ahead. "Why didn't you?" I didn't know what to say. I looked over. "You could have started with the truth." He didn't argue. I turned toward him fully. "You disappeared after the lake. You said you were fine, but you weren't. Something shifted that night, and then you just left me guessing." His eyes met mine. There was that look again, the one I remembered. the one that felt like standing too close to fire. "I got scared," he admitted. "Scared of what I was feeling. Scared you'd see it." I swallowed hard. "See what?" "That I wanted to kiss you." My heart stopped. Everything else faded. He kept talking. "I didn't know how to deal with it. I still don't. But tonight, when my car died, I don't know. I guess I just needed to see you, even if I didn't have the words yet. I didn't speak. I couldn't. I just sat there, watching him, trying to hold still when all I wanted to do was pull him into me." "I'm not saying I have answers," he said, voice low, "but I haven't stopped thinking about that night." A long silence followed, the kind where everything hangs in the air, waiting to tip one way or the other. Then the lights flickered once more and went out completely. Darkness, just the sound of rain, and his hand inching closer to mine on the couch. When the power went out, the silence grew heavier. The glow from the street lamps disappeared too, swallowed by the storm. No hum of the fridge, no soft buzz from the TV. Just the sound of the rain hammering the windows and our breathing. His hand was close now, almost touching mine on the couch cushion. My skin tingled at the nearness, like even the suggestion of contact had the weight of something bigger. I didn't move. Neither did he. I could feel the warmth of him next to me. Not from the blanket, not from the room. Him. He was still damp from the rain, his shirt clinging slightly to his chest, his breath unsteady. And mine wasn't much better. "I didn't mean to disappear," he said quietly. I turned toward him, not speaking, letting him fill the silence he'd left me with. "I thought if I stayed away, it would just go away," he continued. "Whatever this is, whatever I was feeling." "Did it?" I asked. He shook his head, barely visible in the dark. "Me neither," I said. His hand brushed mine then, just a flicker of touch, not bold, not confident, just testing. "I don't even know what this makes me," he whispered. I smiled bitterly. "Why does it have to make you anything?" He looked at me in the dark, and I could tell he was searching my face for something. Permission, maybe. Or safety. I gave him both. "Do you ever think about that night?" he asked. "Every day." He let out a breath like he'd been holding it for weeks. "I wanted to kiss you then," he said. "I almost did." "I know," I replied. That moment hung between us like lightning about to strike. His fingers curled around mine now, not just a brush, but a grip. Firm, real. We sat there, hand in hand, the world outside raging with thunder and water and wind. But in that moment, there was only the rhythm of his thumb moving across my knuckle. It wasn't just about attraction anymore. It wasn't just about a kiss. It was about how we got here, how neither of us had said it aloud, but we'd both felt it building. He moved a little closer, and I didn't stop him. I could feel his breath on my cheek now, the heat of him, the hesitation. "I'm scared," he said. "I know," I said. "So am I." We sat like that, suspended. Then I leaned in, just slightly. His forehead met mine, and for a second, it felt like the storm stopped. We stayed there, skin to skin, not kissing. Just being. Just breathing the same air and letting the pull between us say everything words couldn't. Then, just as I thought he'd close the distance, a loud crash outside shattered the moment. We jumped apart. My heart pounded in my chest. He stood up fast and looked toward the window. "I think that was the old oak," I said, grabbing my flashlight. "Might have fallen." He nodded, stepping away, hands shoved into his pockets, eyes on the door like he needed the break, or the distance. I went outside briefly to check. The tree hadn't fallen on the house, just across the fence. But when I came back inside, he wasn't on the couch. I found him in the kitchen, leaning against the counter, face buried in his hands. "You okay?" I asked. He looked up. "I don't know what I'm doing." "You don't have to," I said. "You just have to be honest." He nodded slowly, his eyes glassy. "I didn't think I could feel like this about a guy, about you. And now that I do, I don't know how to undo it." I walked closer. "Maybe you don't need to." He looked at me, vulnerable, torn, and just when I thought he'd step into me again, his phone buzzed on the counter. A message lit up the screen. I glanced down and froze. "Emma." "Are you okay? I've been thinking about you." The screen dimmed after a few seconds, and the message disappeared. But the name stayed burned into my thoughts like lightning across a dark sky. Emma. Of course. He turned the phone face down without answering it, but I saw the way his jaw clenched, the pause in his body. Like hearing from her reminded him of a version of himself he didn't know how to let go of. I didn't say anything. I just stood there, gripping the edge of the kitchen table, waiting to see what he'd do next. "She's just checking in," he said, his voice flat. I nodded. "You don't owe me an explanation." "I know," he said quietly. "But I still feel like I do." He stepped toward me then, slow, measured, like he didn't want to break whatever fragile truce had formed between us in the last hour. "She's not why I came here tonight," he added. I looked up at him, my voice soft. "Then why did you come?" He hesitated. "Because this is the only place that's ever felt real." My chest tightened. It was a beautiful thing to hear, but it hurt too. Because part of me knew he still hadn't chosen. Not really. The rain had slowed outside, but the house felt even quieter now. The power hadn't returned. Only candlelight flickered in the living room, soft and golden, casting shadows that danced across the walls. I broke the silence. "Do you want to stay the night?" He blinked. "Are you sure?" I nodded. "The roads are still a mess, and it's late." He hesitated, then said, "Yeah, okay." I brought him a blanket and a pillow and started laying them out on the couch. He stood behind me, hands in his pockets again, watching. "Do you want the bed?" I asked. He shook his head. "I'll take the couch." I nodded, but something about the way he looked at me made me pause. "You don't have to sleep alone if you don't want to," I said, barely above a whisper. His eyes met mine in the low candlelight. "Are you sure?" I nodded again. "Yeah." We didn't speak as we walked into my room. The walls creaked faintly under the weight of the storm outside. I peeled back the blankets. He sat on the edge of the bed like he didn't know what to do with his hands. We lay down side by side, facing the ceiling. I could hear every breath he took, the rise and fall of the mattress, the slow turn of something unspoken pressing between us. "I haven't done this before," he said suddenly. "Me neither," I replied. "Not like this." He turned to face me, his voice quieter. "It scares me how much I want to." My heart pounded so loud I was afraid he could hear it. I turned toward him too. "Then don't run from it." His fingers brushed mine under the blanket, hesitant. Then he took my hand fully, lacing our fingers together. He didn't kiss me. He didn't need to. We lay there in the dark, holding hands, breathing the same rhythm. But just as sleep began to pull at the edges of the moment, he whispered something I wasn't prepared for. "I told her I still think about her." My eyes opened. But I didn't tell her, he added, that lately I think about you more. My throat tightened. Do you miss her? I asked. He was quiet for a long time. I miss who I thought I was with her, he finally said. But when I'm with you, I don't have to pretend. That should have been enough. But a voice deep inside me still whispered, he's not mine yet. Not really. We lay there the rest of the night, close but not touching again, our hands resting between us like a secret. And in the morning, I woke up to an empty bed. No note, no text, just the sound of a dripping faucet, and a cold space where he had been. I stared at the empty side of the bed for a long time. The sheets were still warm, the imprint of his body barely fading. His scent was faint on the pillow, like rain and fabric softener, but he was gone. No note, no message, no goodbye. I sat up slowly, the heaviness settling in before my feet even touched the floor. 1,000 thoughts crowded my head, each one louder than the last. Maybe he freaked out. Maybe he regretted coming. Maybe last night was just a pause in his confusion, and not the beginning of something real. But deep down, I knew better. He had run. Again. I checked my phone. Nothing. I checked the kitchen. Empty. The front door had been locked from the inside. So he hadn't left in panic, just quietly, like silence would somehow soften the weight of absence. The storm outside had passed, but inside me, something still raged. I didn't hear from him the entire day. I didn't text either. If he wanted space, he had it. If he wanted to talk, he knew where to find me. But part of me, maybe the part that was stupidly hopeful, kept glancing at the door, waiting for a knock that never came. That night, I tried to sleep. I turned over 100 times. I played the same songs we'd listened to that night. I stared at the ceiling and replayed every word he said in the dark. When I'm with you, I don't have to pretend. Then why did he leave? The next day, I saw him. Not at my door, not calling me. At the gas station. He was walking out with a bottle of water, hoodie pulled over his head, hair damp like he'd just showered. And he wasn't alone. Emma was beside him. They weren't touching, not exactly, but they were close, too close. My stomach dropped. He saw me. We locked eyes across the parking lot, and something in his face shifted. Shock. Guilt. Maybe both. I froze for a second, then walked past them without a word. My hands were trembling. My chest ached. I didn't even make it home before his message came through. That wasn't what it looked like. Can we talk? I didn't answer. 10 minutes later, he was knocking on my door again. This time I didn't hesitate to open it, but I didn't move aside either. Why was she with you? I asked, straight out. She showed up at my house, he said. She wanted to talk. I didn't know how to say no. You didn't know how to say no to her, but you had no problem walking out on me without a word? His eyes softened. I panicked, waking up next to you. I didn't know what to do. You could have stayed, I said. You could have said something, anything. He looked down. I was scared it meant something. It did mean something, I said, voice cracking. Or were you just testing what it felt like to hold my hand before going back to her? No, he said quickly. It wasn't like that. I didn't kiss her. I haven't touched her. I swear. Then why was she with you? Because I told her the truth, he said, voice trembling. That there's someone else that I think I'm in love with. He stopped. I froze. With who? I asked. He swallowed hard. You. Time stopped for a second, and then I stepped back and let him in. He stood in the hallway, unsure, breath shallow. I could see the storm still alive behind his eyes. Not outside now. In him. "I know I'm a mess," he said. "I know I've been back and forth and scared and unfair. But the truth is, I can't stop thinking about you. I don't want to pretend anymore." I stared at him. "I need to know," I whispered. "If I let myself fall into this again, are you going to disappear tomorrow morning?" He shook his head. "No, not this time." I walked forward, slowly. "Then don't make me regret opening this door again." And he closed the space between us, fast, full of everything we'd held back. And this time, when he kissed me, there was no doubt. He kissed me like there was no more fear. Like, finally, everything made sense. No words could have said more than that touch between us. His skin warm, breath uneven, his arms pulling me in like he didn't want to let go. And for a moment, I believed maybe he was ready to stay. That night, we slept together. Not in the physical sense, but in the deepest one. Bodies close, quiet confessions. Him pressed against me like he was still trying to find shelter. Me listening to his heartbeat slow down, like he was learning a new rhythm. And the next morning, he didn't run. He stayed, had coffee with me, laughed at my messy hair, looked me in the eyes like he didn't want to look away anymore.